Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Commander Clash podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and you're probably wondering, wait, where's Tomer this week? Tomer is apparently in the midst of a nationwide internet outage with his service provider, so at the last minute, no Tomer, so I'm feeling the Tomer role today, and we got a fun one. We're going to be doing a secret rendezvous tier list. If you know Commander Clash, you know, some of us are like the biggest fans of Secret Rendezvous, and this is a whole list of cards that essentially work like Secret Rendezvous. They benefit you and one other opponent, so they're not group hug cards. They're cards that just help you in a single person to give you a little bit more control over it. So we are going to be tier listing a whole bunch of these cards today, which should be pretty interesting. But before we get into it, we gotta introduce our co-host. First off, we have the owner of MTG Goldfish, Richard. How's it going today, Richard?
I heard you needed someone to talk about Secret Rendezvous. I'm here.
Yeah,
the bat symbol was flashing up. You know, Secret Rendezvous podcast. Let's go.
Oh boy,
it's Richard's time to shine. Indeed. We also have another co-host, and Kramen. Kramen, I don't think you're the biggest Secret Rendezvous fan, but it should still be an interesting topic. How are you today?
I'm great. I am great. I can't wait to talk about all these cards.
So you've seen our tier list before. We've done a few of them. Essentially, the idea is we're going to rank cards from S tier down to D tier. S tier is like auto-include, play it every place you can. A tier, good in a lot of decks. B tier, good in some decks, a small percentage of decks. C tier, filler cards or maybe budget cards. And then D tier, don't play them. Try to cut them from your deck list. Try to discard them to your gamble. So that's our ranking system. So we're going to jump into the cards in just a minute. But before we do, we got a sweet playmat for sale for a limited time only. You can go over to mtggoldfishmerch.com. Richard got one early somehow. Ooh, he's got with the foil signatures.
Ooh.
There's actually three options. You can get the foil signatures for the full Commander Clash experience. We also have a couple of other options. You can get playmats and get bags with them. Super, super sweet. So head on over to mtggoldfishmerch.com. We're using this to support a trip out to not GP Vegas, Magic 30th anniversary Vegas, and in October this fall. So if you want to see us in Vegas, pick up a playmat, come and bring it to Vegas, and we'll sign it and play some Commander with you. So you can get it until the end of July over at mtggoldfishmerch.com. And with our sponsorship stuff out of the way, let's jump into our tier list, and let's start with the card that made this whole tier list happen, which is actually kind of two cards. I cheated a little bit. Richard, what are the first cards we're ranking today?
All right, Secret Rendezvous, white, generic, 3 mana value, sorcery. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. And then a newer card, your temple is under attack, 2 and a white, instant. Choose one, creatures you control gain indestructible, or you and target opponent each draw 2 cards. So we'll start with Secret Rendezvous. Oh, I saw some real-time updates. So I have it as S. Seth has downgraded from S into A. Krim has put it at C. The blasphemy.
I would give it a D, to be honest with you. But, you know, for the sake of this podcast, I will give it a C.
It's the title card of the podcast.
That's why it gets a C.
Actually, that's higher than I thought Krim would rank it. If Tomer was here, he'd be giving it a D or an F for making up some letter.
I would try to give it an F.
Yeah. For me, I had it as S originally, but then I was thinking about our list and how we actually have the criteria, and S is auto-include in all decks. I don't quite see Secret Rendezvous as an auto-include in all decks. I'm auto-include in all white decks, mono-white decks in specific, in some two-color decks, but I'm not quite to the Richard stage where if I'm playing like Esper or something, there's no way I haven't gotten to that point where I'm going to put a Secret Rendezvous in the deck if I have blue card draw or some of the other good card advantage colors. But Richard, you're at that point, right? You have 5-color Secret Rendezvous deck, like go for it.
Every deck has a Secret Rendezvous if it has white, right? Do you guys realize how rare a 3 mana draw 3 unconditional is in Magic? You have Painful Truths, and then that's it. Yeah. Right? You have Ristic Study if you want to draw over time, but like that's it, right? Like all the other ones come with severe downside, like your maximum hand size is 3. You need the city's blessing, like stuff like that, right? So a 3 mana draw 3 is so above rate that I don't know why you wouldn't just slam it in every deck. And then, of course, you can do shenanigans with the things you give your opponents. You can make an ally. You can give it to someone who's dying. You can give it to someone who can't do anything with it, like their hand is already full. So I think it's really good. A 3-mana draw 3. I don't know why you would not put in every deck.
I remember a few months ago when you first brought this up, or maybe longer than that now. Maybe it's been like a year. I was looking at this from a very 60 card perspective. I don't want to say spike perspective, but from the perspective of someone who plays a lot of standard or modern, an idea that I would want to give my opponents cards, and I'm the one that's spending the mana, and I'm kind of drawing one less card because I'm the one spending the card. Like, it blew my mind that would be good, but then Richard kept harping on it and bringing it up, and now we've seen it in action a lot of times on Commander Clash, and I don't think I've seen it backfire once. Like, every single time it's a draw 3, and I'm pretty sure every single time the fact that you're giving your opponent the 3 cards has not mattered. I've seen opponents discarding the hand size because of those cards. You're giving the cards to someone who's got 2 lands and they're not doing anything anyway, so what does it matter if they got some extra cards? So in practice, it really is a painful truce that doesn't really cost you any life, which is incredibly powerful. So I would have ranked this like a D a year ago, and now I'm up to A, and I don't know, maybe I end up getting to the S tier eventually. What about you, Krim? Why do you have this ranked as a C?
Doesn't believe in card draw.
I have to put it at C because Richard said that if I don't, I'm going to get fired. No.
That's why Tomer's not here. He's trying to pull a D on me. He's gone.
Yeah. There's the real reason why Tomer's not here, and I'm willing to tell you all the story. No. Okay. So I pretty much would give the card like, I have it ranked pretty low, but that's because I think it's playstyle. In playstyle, like, okay, you kind of touched upon it earlier, but I don't think it's like necessarily like 60 card. It is like just the decks and the playstyle I like playing, which is actual denial. The hardest thing about denial is if you give them something, right? It's like, hey, imagine if the Jund deck let you draw 5 cards and it's trying to 1-for-1, right? Like, I'm not gonna let you draw cards because I just spent the whole like batch of my last few turns countering some spells, or maybe discarding or removing. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to do that, even if I'm also refilling my own hand, right? Because if my game plan is to 1-for-1 you down and out of the game, I don't, and especially in Commander, the last thing I want to do is help you draw 3 cards. So I do not like, and especially on my turn, even if it's just 3 mana, let's just say that, the fact that it is still sorcery speed is kind of like a nuisance. So that is why I do not like that. And that's
I'll give you a 60 card analogy. Okay. Let's say you're playing Tron and I'm playing Jund.
I would never. Okay.
You can give me all the cards I want. I can never beat you. Right? So in Commander, this would be, let's say you're playing Esper Control. You have a grip full of sweepers. You give the Kithkin player some cards. They play more Kithkin. You sweep them away. No harm, no foul. Right? Like, there's a person stuck on 2 mana. You give them some cards to discard the hand size, right? There's always some way to give it to someone who cannot leverage it to kill you without even making a deal. Right? If you really are ambitious, you can try to make a deal to like guarantee it, but there's always someone who like can't do something, right? They are playing an attacking death. You have 4 Mazovits and a propaganda. Like, they're not doing anything to you, right? So
yeah.
And plus,
I don't.
Aren't you always going to have a Narset Crim? Aren't you always going to have a Notion Thief? That's a reason I expect you to like this card. Is it like combos with some of your favorite cards, essentially?
Hold on. I am 3 mana on my turn, giving you cards, right? Like that's not how that works. I don't want to do that. So again, that is like, that I like just passing, right? And there's nothing for me to like worry about. I don't do anything unless it's on your turn, or ideally. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, sure, maybe give the Kithkin deck more Kithkin to draw. That makes sense. But even then, I don't know if I want to do that, right? Like I feel like if I'm playing a control deck, I already have other ways to draw cards attached to, like, let's say a Decree of Pain, where I sweep the board and I refill my hand. And it's just because, like, usually the way I play, it counters what I would normally do. So that's why I'm just not high on the card.
And I will say that if you look at your temple is under attack, the second part of this question, that it's essentially Secret Rendezvous, except it's 2 cards instead of 3, and you have the option of protecting your creatures, making them indestructible instead of drawing cards. Most importantly, it's instant speed. Krim, you actually have that one ranked pretty highly. What changes that? Is the instant speed part? Is that what sells you on your temple is under attack?
It's instant speed. Absolutely very important. And then on top of that, it itself can be something that isn't just going to be like, hey, you draw 2, I draw 2. It's the ability to protect my creatures. So even if I'm not in a control deck, let's say now I'm in an aggro deck, like my humans deck or something like that, I'm A-okay with it because I don't have to do it on my turn. It's a combat trick at the very least. And if I absolutely have to, I will let you draw 2 cards. We're talking like you're dragging me kicking and screaming. I will, okay, sure. I will play this because you can draw something.
So I have this at A, and I think it's actually arguably better than Secret Rendezvous because it is instant speed and because you can use it to protect your creatures, which is a huge upside. The surprise rating, though, is Mr. Secret Rendezvous himself. A B, Richard. A B. Why do you like your temple is under attack so much less than Secret Rendezvous?
Are you excited to cast a divination? A 3-mana draw 2. You net 1 card.
Divination sorcery.
It's true. Okay, instant speed divination is not an exciting card, right? Do you play Sign in Blood? Do you play Night's Whisper?
Okay.
Like Secret Rendezvous is a 3-mana draw 3. That's exciting. This is still, I give it a B. You know, you can play it. If you're mono white, you'll play it. But would I put it in a 2-color deck? Probably not. Am I excited to pay 3 mana for indestructibility? Not really. Right? Like, it's okay. It's passable, right? And chances are, I'd probably get greedy, right? I'd probably try to draw 2 into my Teferi's Pro and another card, right? to kind of get it done. So I don't see using the indestructible side that much, and divination is not as exciting. The instant speed part is good, but you're white, like what are you gonna do at instant speed anyway? Nothing. And also the one thing is it turns on Sunforger, right? You can Sunforger this thing into card draw, so that is a very valid use case for it, but I don't think it's anywhere close to Secret Rendezvous. I think it's still a decent card, but like
this league's better.
I would not play it in 5-color decks or even like most 2-color decks, right?
Well, I wouldn't play Secret Rendezvous in a 5-color deck anyways. Right?
Like, you put this as S. You would put your temple is under attack in every deck.
I would play this if it has white because it's versatility. I don't look at this as just a divination. I look at this as a charm, right? Like this is a charm.
But
and
kind of
charms
mediocre.
Look, the flexibility in that I don't have to let you draw cards makes it already great, right? Like I can protect my board, which I like infinitely more.
But you could just play Flawless Maneuver and cast it for free. And not deal with this if you're never going to use the other part of it, right?
Redundancy. And yeah, like sure, maybe I need to refill. That's the nice. It's a charm, and that's what it is.
I'm with Grim. I think, Richard, maybe you're underrating the protecting your board part of it. That's kind of where I'm at, because if you look at EDH Rec and the white staples, yes, Teferi's Protection's number 1 if you want to protect your board. Yes, Flawless Maneuver's number 2. But cards like Unbreakable Formation, Rootborn Defenses, these other 3-mana do a little thing, make my team indestructible. Those are legitimate white staples. Like, they're decks that are, those are cards that a lot of decks actually play. So I think from that perspective, I really like it. Like, if I'm choosing between this and Unbreakable Formation as the third way to, like, protect my team from a Wrath in a creature deck, I think I would choose Your Temple is Under Attack. Like, it might not be the best at what it does, but I think it's better than some of the other options that are seeing play.
Like, what am I trying to draw into?
It's a B. It's playable.
All right.
It's playable, but not anywhere as close to Secret Rendezvous.
Like, usually if I get targeted with Secret Rendezvous, I want to draw, like, and I'm playing a mono white or some kind of aggro deck, I'm trying to draw into a protection spell anyways. Why not have my draw spell potentially be the protection spell?
Yeah.
So let's move on. That's Secret Rendezvous. That's your temple is under attack. Next up, we have not one, not two, but 3 cycles of cards that we're going to talk about together. The first one is the friend or foe cycle. Krim, why don't you tell us a little bit about that cycle?
Okay, so the whole friend or foe cycle is a cycle of cards that allows you to pick friend or foe. And then it goes around the table, and it usually has a different mode. For the sake of just a card, I'm going to choose Peer's Whim. 3 and a green for each player. Choose friend or foe. Each friend searches their library for a land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffles their library. Each foe sacrifices an artifact or enchantment they control. So it's like one big modal spell that kind of scales with the more people at the table. And this cycle is actually okay. Like, I think some of the cards are like still like pretty decent, but not. I don't know. I don't think there's like any like card that's like absurdly strong. Like, if I think of Peer's Whim, I maybe give it a B. It can be useful, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to take over the game or win the game or anything, and it just seems perfectly okay.
Yeah, so the cycle, I think it's interesting. We all gave Peer's Whims Bs. Other than that, Corvas Fury got a couple of Cs. That's one that for 5 mana in red, you can wheel anyone you want to wheel, or you can have that player take damage equivalent to their cards in their hand. So that one's got a couple of Cs. Otherwise, we have most of these. I guess Vertices Maneuver, the black one, also is kind of popular. It's got a couple of Cs in there. For each friend, they return a creature from the graveyard to their hand. For each foe, that player has to sack a creature for 3 mana in black at sorcery speed. So I think, for me, the problem with these cards in general is they're a little bit overcosted. I like how they work, but a lot of them, their effects are just a tiny bit too much. I think Peer's Whim is the biggest exception. It's one of those cards that I have it B as a card that's only good in certain decks, because I think it's pretty valuable in a deck that's trying to search up specific non-basic lands. That's a big upside of that card, is it doesn't say basic lands. So if you're trying to set up Dark Depths, Urborg plus Cabal Coffers, any of those land style combos, trying to assemble Tron in Commander, or maybe your opponent has something good and you're going to snag your Vesuva and copy their Flipped Dowsing Dagger or something, then I think it's a pretty good card. Otherwise, the cycle just seems like pretty much every card is like 1 more mana than I want to pay for it. If they each cost 1 less mana, I think we'd see these cards a lot more in Commander. As they are, they're okay. They're kind of fun, but definitely far from staples in my opinion. But what do you think about these, Richard?
Yeah, I like Peer's Whim. I gave it a B, and then the rest are all Ds and Cs. Like, I think they're stone unplayable. So Peer's Whim, I think Seth hit. The mode you get for yourself, 4 mana, tutor any land, is actually quite powerful. Right, and if you're trying to get some depth, like you can go for 5 mana value, you can get Hour Promise or whatever, right? But like this is it, right? So you can get up Maze of Ith, you can give back Field of the Dead or whatever. You can make up that mana. The faux part is bad. You just mildly annoy everyone, right? Like for all these cards, right? You get like some overcosted upside for you, and either you're group hugging the table, or you just mildly annoy everyone without doing anything useful. Right, so Peer's Whim is they sack an artifact or enchantment. Maybe you get a good one. Maybe they sack a treasure. Who knows? So I just don't like these cards. They're overcosted. You're paying for this flexibility, and the flexibility is not good. Right? Like I guess in the ideal case, like your friend is off a land and they have Ondu Inversion or something, so you can ramp them and they can untap an Ondu Inversion or something. But it's like a lot of hoops for like, not much payoff.
I think if they go any if the card was any cheaper though, it might be too strong. Right? This is one of the cycles where I think it is overcosted, but if it's any cheaper, it's also busted. Not busted, but just too strong.
That might be true. That might be true because you do have complete control over it. And one thing I worry about with these cards is it feels like they're worded like Secret Rendezvous, where you can give an opponent something, but in reality, how often are you going to choose the positive mode for an opponent? I worry that like 95% of the time, you're going to just be like, oh, I can land all you sacrifice an artifact and enchantment, which makes it not often a secret rendezvous. So that's the one thing I kind of dislike about it, is it doesn't actually force you to do anything that benefits an opponent. Obviously it makes the card better that way, but it does, it is a little bit straight. It reads like Group Hug, but I don't think it's actually going to play like a secret rendezvous all that often.
It's a designed multiplayer card, so WotC has made the mana value reflect that.
One other quick question before I move on to the next one. The other one that we have ranked kind of highly is Vertices Maneuver. Kramen and I gave it B's. Richard gave it a C. Richard, I'm kind of curious of your opinion. 3 mana. Each friend gets to return a creature from their graveyard to your hand. Each foe sacks a creature. You're someone who sold me on Skullwinder. This reminds me a little bit of Skullwinder, obviously restricted and you don't get a body on the battlefield. But is there any Skullwinder vibes that maybe make this a card that we should be reevaluating for playing in our decks?
So if I had a card that was 3 mana sorcery, return a creature to my hand, what is that, like a Gravedigger? Right?
Yeah,
like, would you play this? Like, this effect is so mediocre that, like, I don't care to give it to my opponent too, right? Like, it has to be something I want to play. Like, if it was a reanimate, like a 1 mana reanimate for my friends or something, then, you know, we're talking, right? But, like, if you remove the political aspect of this card is so mediocre that I don't really like it. And again, like, yeah, you can make your opponent sack things, but what are the odds that it's, like, super relevant, right? So maybe if you're playing a sack, you know, like some kind of, like, sack deck or forcing your opponents to sack things, maybe it's okay, but it's just so mediocre.
I like the removal though, and I think this is actually fairly costed when you think about like how many sack effects there are. They're usually around 2 to 3 mana. You can potentially get like a person to sack something, and then maybe get somebody else, like you and them, to get something back. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
And I mean, at its base, it is a 4-for-1. 4-for-1. You cast this, you get back a card. Each opponent's going to sacrifice something. It's only 3 mana. This one to me seems like one of the most fairly costed of the cards in this cycle. When I read like 5 mana, like Wheel of Fortune, I'm just like, my eyes glaze over. I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay 5 for that. But this one, as Krim said, like 3 mana for edicting everyone and maybe like raise deading something back to your hand. I don't know. That doesn't seem unfairly costed to me. This is the card I think I'm going to have to check if it's on Moto. Assuming it's on Magic Online, I think this is one that I'm actually gonna throw into some of my decks and see, because it feels close to being good to me.
It's technically a 4-for-1, but like a Wrath is like a 20-for-1. So is every Wrath S tier? Or like, can I show you Barter in Blood? Like every opponent or each player sacks 2 creatures. Like, yes, it's a 6-for-1 or whatever the heck that is, right? But like, do you really want this though? Like, what if they just sack their plant token and their random Kithkin token or something? Like, I don't know, right? Like, you actually need to be building around the sack thing, right?
Right. Well,
You play this to get back your Skullwinder, then you Skullwinder back the Vertices Maneuver, then you do. Then you get them.
Is it a Chaomancer loop?
It's a very long, drawn out loop, but it is.
All right, let's move on to our next cycle. Our next cycle is, I think, one that I've seen slightly more in our Commander games, and that's the Offering cycle. So the Offering cycle, headlined by, let's go with the green one. I think that's the one I've seen the most, Sylvan Offering. So this is a cycle of sorceries where you choose an opponent, and you and that person do something, and then you choose an opponent, and you and that person do something else. So you could choose the same opponent twice. I guess you just read the card. That's probably the easiest way to describe it. So Sylvan Offering, green and X sorcery, choose an opponent, you and that player each create a XX green tree folk creature token, and then choose an opponent, you and that creature each create X11 green elf warrior creature tokens. So you cast this for 6 mana. You're going to get a 5/5 and 5/1/1s. You're also going to give the rest of the table of 5/5 and 5/1/1s, but you get to choose which person gets it. I could give them all to Richard. I could give Richard the 5/5, Krim the 1/1s. So this is a cycle that I think has potential to be strong. Sylvan Offering I actually have as an A. Maybe that's overrating it a little bit, but I've really come around to the idea of cards that can just add a bunch of power to the table to multiple people are pretty valuable in Commander, because you can take advantage of the turn order. That's something I've learned from the Haunted cycle, where one of the problems with your cards a lot of times is they don't have haste, and you're trying to attack like the arch enemy, and you play your creature, and you gotta wait all the way around the table to do something with it. But with a card like Sylvan Offering, you can hopefully target the person who is going to be going next. They're going to untap. They're going to have all these creatures. They're not going to be summoning sick because they've already been on the battlefield, and they can immediately start getting in those attacks. So these are cards that I've become high on in Commander. Not that they're really staples, I don't think, but I think they're cards that are much, much better than a lot of people give them credit for. So I have it at A. Richard has it as B, or Krim has it as B. Richard has it as C. There's one other one that we kind of like, Volcanic Offering. I think otherwise we get all C's. Volcanic Offering, Richard has C, I have B, Krim has...
Infernal Offering's not bad.
Krim has A. Volcanic Offering is a 5-mana instant. Destroy a non-basic land you don't control, and target non-basic land of an opponent's choice you don't control, and deal 7 damage to a creature you don't control, and 7 damage to a creature you don't control of an opponent's choice. So what do you guys think about this cycle? Where are we at with the Offering cycle?
So I actually think now the Friend of Foe cycle is one that we just talked about. Like, those are kind of meh. These I feel are a bit overcosted themselves, but they're actually like the Volcanic Offering card specifically, I think is nice. Instant speed, 5 mana, destroy target non-basic land. Like that's
Krim loves his instants.
I love my instants. I do. If it's for the most part.
5 mana Stone Rain.
Yeah,
I mean, you get to kill a creature.
It's double Stone Rain, double removal, right? But.
Yeah, that makes it much better, because think about all the problematic lands you can pick off, like let's just say an Urborg or something. There's tons of those. There's tons of lands you want to try to deal with, and this deals with it. And then it also gets a creature out of the way. That's amazing. Like, sign me up for that at instant speed. Like, if I'm going to use a spot removal slot, and I like, why not pick off a land and a creature simultaneously?
I think this is paper value again, right? So when you fire this off, right, you're going to have something in mind like, oh, they're comboing off. Let me kill their creature. And then you're just going to hit 2 random lands for value that you didn't care about, right? And then technically you did some stuff, but like you didn't really care about it, right? Like you didn't really care about getting this 4-for-1. You just wanted to kill one thing, and then some stuff incrementally died along the way. So,
but the incremental value does add up, does it not? And like, let's be honest here.
But you paid mana for it. What if you just played a Doomblade and killed the thing you wanted to kill, rather than paying 5 mana and just randomly sniping lands you don't care about, right? Like,
but Magic keeps making better lands, right? So yeah. I feel like at some point we hit a critical mass where any random land being killed is better than no random. Like,
but it's the other way around then, right? Then you just play Strip Mine and kill that land for free rather than sniping creatures for fun on the way out, right? Like,
but you got to snipe creatures. That's good value. That's good value.
I mean, one thing I like about it is 7 damage is a lot for a red spell. Like, one thing red struggles with is killing bigger things, and 7's enough that you should be able to deal with most things, right? Like that's a pretty. That's only 6. That's only 6. How are you going to deal with my, I don't know, something with 7 toughness? But that's not bad. You're killing 2 things, kind of 4 things if you count the lands. I don't think it's a staple, but I don't think it's stone unplayable either. Like, I don't know.
I need to put that
in a good pre-con upgrade.
It's a B now. It's a B. You've talked me down.
I would say nice things about it.
You're paying for this flexibility and these abilities, right? You're paying like fair value. I would consider these fair value cards. You're not getting any like exceptional deal on it. And it's like, okay, right? It's not like embarrassing to play, but it's not like, oh yes, I cheated and like did this amazing thing, right? It's like, no, I paid 5 mana and killed like a bunch of things, and cool.
What about the green one? Like, where are you guys at with just giving your opponents creatures? No?
I like the green one because those exact reasons that you had mentioned. Like, the ability to abuse the turn order is often quite nice. And also choosing who gets the like massive amount of like creatures is also great. Like, giving the deck a bunch of control deck a bunch of 1/1s, who cares, right? Or one big threat, who cares? Or maybe you need to increase the clock. I don't know. I like it. It's not the greatest. But it is, like, I like it as much as I like Volcanic Offering. The one that I actually like more than the green one is, they're all rated B now, but I think is probably Infernal Offering and or Volcanic Offering. But
what is Infernal Offering? Infernal Offering, 5 mana sorcery. Choose an opponent. You and that player each sack a creature. Each player who sacks a creature draws 2 cards. Choose an opponent. Return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then that player returns one from their graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so a little edict / reanimation.
I'll throw in Tomer here. He really likes Intellectual Offering, which is 5 mana, blue instant Secret Rendezvous. Choose an opponent, you and that player each draw 3 cards. And then the other ability is untap all non-land permanents you control and that player controls. He really likes that for some reason and not Secret Rendezvous.
How do you rank that one, Krim?
Are you
No,
trolling?
he actually does like this one.
Does like this.
I've heard him say it, yeah. It's instant. Do you like this, Krim? It is instant.
Well, it's the latter half. Untap all non-land.
Yeah, like if you're going to combo do something weird with untapping, then sure. But like as a value card, it's really weird.
5 mana draw 3 is not very efficient.
It's not where it's at.
I mean,
it does go up to a B though. I think all of these are very much so a B because the untap all your non-land permanents. Or wait, hold on, is it non-land or
it is non-land?
Non-land.
No, it's no land.
So you don't get your mana back.
It stays at a C. Hold on. Okay, hold on. This actually might be non-land. This is so much worse. Hold on. Why does Tomer like this?
You can untap your mana dorks or something. I don't know, right? You can untap your combo pieces. I don't know. Like I'm sure you can combo with this in some way, right? But I wouldn't just jam it in a random deck.
It's the latter half. It's not the draw 3. I guess you get to draw 3 on top of it, which is nice. But like you're not untapping your lands. So this definitely feels like something that's great in like a Simic deck. Or a deck that's just loaded with rocks. So this one actually doesn't feel great compared to the others.
Like you can shenanigans. You can like choose an opponent to untap all their blockers or something and like get a surprise block in or something, right? But it's like it's kind of mediocre. Sylvan Offering is super mediocre. I don't know.
Really?
So think of the power you're getting, right? So let's say you pay 5 mana, you get 8 power. That's like kind of mediocre. That's not even that good. Now the problem is you give an opponent creatures, and they can like haste kill someone. But now you have a cleanup problem that you're like it's hard to deal with, right? Because you gave them tall and wide, right? So now that the opponent's dead, you got to clean this up. And like, how do you clean this up, right? You need like a little sweeper and a Doom Blade or something. Like it's kind of hard to clean up. It's kind of, and you got to tap yourself out. You got to you're tapping yourself out to make big creatures. So it's actually kind of mediocre. Although I like the theory of giving your opponents creatures.
The argument I would have in favor of this is I actually think this is one of the only offerings that's actually super efficiently costed. Like the way it scales is pretty good for like 1 green and X to make that many 1/1s and make a big creature with that power and toughness. If you compare that to other things that make tokens, like I think they're counting giving your opponents to creatures is a pretty meaningful downside with this one. Like it actually seems like Wizards is costing this in a way where they're viewing that as a big drawback when if you look at it as an upside, which maybe I'm wrong to look at it that way, I don't know, like just the amount of power and toughness you get compared to mana value is really good for Sylvan Offering. But you are right. Like, you are giving someone a bunch of tokens, and even though maybe that's good for the immediate future, like the next turn cycle, long term those tokens could end up being a problem. We've even seen like the plants from Dousing Dagger blocking one of your things for a turn. Like, so that doesn't usually happen, but there are times when that ends up being a drawback eventually as well. So that is a fair point, but I still think Sylvan Offering, it's just so much power and toughness.
It would be better
mana.
if it was the same thing, like 2XX tokens or like double the 1/1s, because your deck is typically go tall or go wide. Like, you don't need this, right? Like, it kind of messes with you, right? Either you're a big deck or a wide deck, and this gives you both. So I'd rather just condense that power into the same type.
I think what you do is, so you give the person who you want to be attacking all the 1/1s, and then give the person who's going to be dying the big thing, and hopefully the 1/1s like overwhelm the person that has a big token, and then at least it gets that one off of the table. I don't know if it'll actually work out that way, but in my mind, that's like the dream scenario with this card, I think.
Like, the problem is all these cards require political maneuvering, right? Like if you don't have friends at the table, like, this card is like hot trash.
That's true.
Right?
True.
Whereas I would argue a card like Secret Rendezvous, you can still maneuver it like in the right way, even if no one agrees with you. Same with like Skullwinder and things like that. There are ways to make these cards work without everyone cooperating. But if people don't cooperate with this thing, like, you are dead on the spot, right? So it's a little risky.
That's a really good point I hadn't thought of. Like, picture yourself being the arch enemy seat. You can probably cast a Secret Rendezvous and get value out of it, even if you're the arch enemy. If you're the arch enemy, you're probably not going to be able to get value out of Sylvan Offering because you're not going to want to be giving your opponent all those creatures. So that is a good point. Less consistent than an actual Secret Rendezvous, I would say. So,
which is where the black one goes in to play. Infernal Offering.
Tell us about the black one. We kind of glossed over it. What do you like about Infernal Offering?
It helps you get, like, each player sacks, right? And then potentially, I love my sack outlets and my edicts. You get to also then draw a card, 2 cards actually, and then you get to reanimate. Is that not great?
I mean, it's 5 mana. I don't think it's bad, but it's still it's 5 mana. It's not like literal reanimator or something. Like, oh my god, it's so efficient, but. It seems fine. I like that you can potentially target someone that doesn't have a creature in their graveyard, and you can completely minimize the drawback if you need to in some scenarios.
Yeah, like you choose the person with the problematic threat. You sack some random thing that you don't care about, like let's say an Aristocrats deck, some random 1/1 or something like that. One of the tokens you gave me from the green offering, and then
I got you.
And then you choose an opponent who, like much like you said, you target the control player who has like what, a random Augur of Bolas or something, or you get someone a Steve back and you get back a big bomb. Like, I kind of love. I think this card is sweet in the right style of decks. It's not like a house. But if you can value the edict effect and you want the reanimation effect, it's 2 in 1. I think it's pretty sweet, and you draw cards on top of that.
I think the part that gets me is it looks like a Deadly Dispute, that first mode, or a Village Rites. I'm like, oh my god, it's like a 1 mana spell, but you are getting your opponent as well, so it is way better than that. But just when I read it, I'm like, sack a thing, draw 2. Like, I want to be doing that for 1 mana, not 5 mana.
Yeah. 5 mana is like, it's like you're paying for literally Village Rites and Zombify, right? Like that's together. Those are the 2 cards that you're paying for at sorcery speed. But the sorcery speed trade-off is that you choose. So, which is much better.
All right, let's move on.
I think it's fairly costed.
Let's move on to our last cycle. We got one more cycle, then we got some individual cards. I think it's Richard's turn, and we're talking Hunted cycle, one of my favorite sleeper cycles in Commander. Richard, tell us about these hunted creatures.
All right, so hunted creatures are super undercosted creatures that give your opponents creatures, and there's some stipulation on them. So Hunted Horror is black. It's a 7/7 trample for 2 mana value. When it ETBs, target opponent creates 2 3/3 green centaur creature tokens with pro black.
This I think is like by far the best hunted card, right? Like this one is so good. It is a 2 mana.
Like a word.
The green one is obviously very, very solid. Like I think it's still pretty good, but like it's 4 mana. This is literally just 2 mana. 2 mana, you give
2 mana 7/7 trample, and then someone gets two centaurs.
Right, 2 mana 7/7 trample. I think is a very good rate. I would say so myself. And then you give somebody else 2 3/3 green whatever with pro black. That's fine. You can deal with that at some point later. But for right now, you're getting a 7/7 body. That's just an absurd rate, and you're clocking somebody. This. Oftentimes, I just see it just tick somebody's health total down to like such a low number by turn 4, right? Someone just took 14 by turn 4.
And that's assuming you can't get your opponent to help you. Like, if you play this on turn 2 and you both attack the same person, you can hit someone for 39 damage in the course of 3 turns. Like, starting on turn 2, like, that's a lot of power and toughness being added to the battlefield. In 1v1 formats where this was designed for, the pro black is a really big deal. Like, you get a 7/7, but your opponent has pro black blockers, so it doesn't actually do much of anything. But in a 4-player format like Commander, that's not really that big of a deal. Like, you can use it politically or just attack the people that don't have the pro black thing. So, yeah, I think this card's good. This card's good. I feel like this whole cycle is like underrated because it's just like, it's not rated. I never see people play these cards in Commander. I think the blue one might arguably be better. I like the blue one quite a bit. 3 mana, you get a 4/6 that's unblockable, and someone else gets 5 1/1 goblin tokens. Not quite as much power, but a 3 mana 4/6 unblockable, throw some equipment on that or something, like that's still a pretty like legit threat.
I see. I like it because it is a 3 mana 4/6, but more so just because it's a spirit than anything else. The problem here is that yes, it's less power. It's just 5 1/1 goblins that don't necessarily have any other text, right? The others are centaurs with pro black. And I think that can work to your benefit if you're trying to like gang up on somebody. And if they're like a black based deck, you kind of force a sweeper or their better answer out of them, right? Because they can't get around the pro black. Or they have to try to get around the pro black. This is just 5 vanilla 1/1 red goblins and a 4/6. It is unblockable. That is nice. But raw stats, it's just not enough damage or aggression.
I think there's Oh, go ahead, Richard.
The green one.
That's what I was going to say. I think you like another one.
It's actually a really good one. It's a 4 mana 8/4 with a single green regenerate, and then someone gets 4 1/1 blue fairies with flying. And the reason why this is so good is it synergizes like crazily good with green. So green has the draw cards based on power cards. So for 4 mana, you get an 8/4, right? And you also have cards like Ronus that double power. Like there's all this power matter stuff in green. This powers up. What's the artifact? The one that draws.
Oh, Great Henge.
Great Henge.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's so much inherent synergy with this 8/4 that I really like this. And I put this and the black one as A's, and then I think the rest are B's. But I think Hunted Troll can just be played in a generic deck, right? And if you're doing green things, it probably works out for you.
Yeah, you got all the card draw based on power. You have stuff like fight rigging now. There are a lot of ways of that synergize. Just having a big thing's very green. I think I like most of them. I have them all at B or A, except for the white one. Haunted Lamassu, I'm kind of meh on. 4 mana 5/5 flyer, and you give someone a 4/4 with no abilities, a vanilla 4/4. I like these cards mostly as a way to add just a huge amount of power to the battlefield, and this one just doesn't add that much. I think if you add up the power added to the battlefield of all these cards, the white one of the cycle adds the least. It's only adding a total of 9 power and toughness for 4 mana, which is fine, but compared to like the red one, Haunted Dragon, 5 mana 6/6 flying haste, and someone gets 3 2/2s, then you're up to 12 power, and your power is hasty. We've seen this one on Commander Clash before, and this can really close out the game quickly at the end, because you get that hasty attack for 6, and hopefully the person you give the tokens to get it in for another 6. That's a lot of damage to catch someone by surprise that they're not going to be expecting. So do you think these cards should be more played? Like, should people playing with their Commander play group tonight, like, should they be reevaluating these cards as cards that maybe they should be putting in their decks?
Oh yeah, I think this whole cycle is pretty much underrated, except for Lamassu. I think Lamassu's terrible. I think that one's like stone unplayable.
Lamassu looks like a card they would print today. The 4 mana 5/5 flying, period. Like, I don't know why there's a downside to it.
Right, exactly. Like what is this? Like, it's not that good on raw power. The token it produces doesn't do anything. I just don't like it at all. However, the troll is very good. The phantasm, still kind of medium for me. But yeah, like I think the black one by far is the best one. And then you go with the green one, and then the red one. But yeah, like, oh my god, this should be in the game because of how much power you get out for the cost. We were like, oftentimes Commander Clash, we like, somebody needs to die faster, yada yada yada. This is a good way to kill somebody fast at a table. You put this out on the board, there is a clock. It's very real, and you essentially. You know how we're talking about deputies and sheriffs? This is a great way to pick a deputy and sheriff in a game. Like, you're going to make a friend out of this one way or the other. It's great for politicking, and it's just good. It's like, in a vacuum, just good.
Like, these cards can backfire, right? And Wizards has determined they can backfire and has severely undercosted them, which is what makes them good, right? You just need to know how to play such that they don't backfire and kill you. Whereas the friend or foe or offering cycle, like they're brain dead cards. And as such, Wizards has costed them appropriately. You're not getting any discount, right? You're paying basically full rate for what they're doing. But like Hunted Horror is 2 mana, 13 power potentially, right? Even if you ignore the centaurs, it's 7/7 trample. That's like an insane rate and worth like the mental gymnastics you need to go through to figure out how not to die to the centaurs. Right. And even in like 1v1, it's not even horrendous, right? Like you trample over for 1, you're like net gaining something. but like, yeah, it's like
1 for 1,
it's
dude.
like D's, right? It's like D's.
I don't know, but then they hit you back for 6. You trample over for 1. They're like, oh,
yeah, but then
smack.
afterwards you're trading 7 to 6.
So, let me ask you though. So let's say someone's going to play one of these cards in a commander game, and they say, "Hey, I'll give you the tokens, but you got to promise you won't attack me with them. Period. Not this turn, but you just will not attack me with them." Do you say yes? I think I say yes to that every time. If you're going to say, give me 6 free power, like that's all the deal making you need. Like, I'll promise you I won't attack you. Sure, that's fine. Like, by all means, give me the power. So it doesn't seem that difficult to really use them. I think someone at the table is going to take you up on that deal. Or if you say, I'll give you the tokens if you attack this person next turn, I think they'll say yes to that as well. Like, why not? It's free tokens. Why wouldn't I slam them wherever you want for 1 turn, and then I get the tokens left over? So I don't think it takes that much political maneuvering to actually make them work. But
I mean, I feel these cards will get banned eventually. Like, I think they're that strong.
Cool.
Like, maybe not now. Like, but Secret Run, like these cards create a super unfun environment, right? Like, if you decide to team up with someone against someone, like, imagine you like played a land. And your opponent went before you, so they're on 2 mana, and then suddenly you have 13 power pounding your face because you're playing
Surprise.
like, you're playing Lord Xander. Everyone hates Lord Xander, right? But on your turn 1, you're getting hit by like 13 power, right? You're like, this is ridiculous, right? Like this creates a very unfun environment. So I think it's like Trade Secrets or whatever, like that banned card where like 2 players just draw their deck. Like these were designed at a time without multiplayer, and these cards are a little broken, actually. I don't know.
I think Hunted Horror might be.
Yeah.
You think the others are too? Like, I think Hunted Horror is absurd on its
I would
rate.
play Hunted Troll just for the 2-card combo to draw 8. Like, play this and then play Garrick and draw 8. Like, I don't even need to do anything with anything else, right? Like, this one is really good, too.
I do think the only reason
the red one flies over the knights too, so you can kill your opponent by giving them creatures too.
But it is much so. Like if you think about it, it's getting like what +2 power. Every dragon nowadays is 5 mana haste, right? So you get +2 on your side.
The red one's starting to get power crept, but the green and black one I think are pretty far from being power crept.
The black one is so far ahead for me. I think it is absurd in Commander.
That's
the only
true. Black
reason they're
doesn't
not
get big creatures.
The only reason they're not considered to be busted, I think, is people they don't know about them, or they think they're bad because of 60-card formats. Like, people just don't play them. If people started playing with these cards, I think people would very quickly realize how powerful they are. So throw them in your deck, and you will see that. Don't play the white one. Leave that, like most cycles, leave out the white one. But otherwise. All right, we got more cards to talk about. Let's move from the world of cycles to the world of individual cards. Krim, I think you're up next. What do you got for us?
Okay, so up next, I've got a card that I personally really like. I think I'm the only one that's high on this card. It's Keen Duelist. It's a 1 and a black human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you and target opponent each reveal the top card of your library. You lose life equals the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. You each put that card into your hand. So it's kind of like a Bob effect for you and a friend. And obviously you can definitely politic this. Like if you know the opponent, it's just a sweet human, right? That can draw you some cards. It's a redundancy for if you play Bob himself in your commander deck. Like I do in a humans deck because I have a ton of cheap humans, except for the one time I revealed the 7 mana MDFC, the white one. that one hurt a lot. But outside of that one MDFC biting me in the butt, it's so rare. It's oftentimes used as a way to just get another Bob, and you can choose the opponent with the lower CMC because you're getting hit by somebody with the you're getting hit with the opposing CMC, And that's easy to kind of do. Like, if you know you're playing against some kind of cantrip-filled deck, I'm probably going to target you, so I only take one. And then, you take probably more damage. And you can use this in a weird way, too, if the opponent's low. You know what I mean? You can kind of rig your deck a little bit, like it's scrying. You can actually use this as a way to burn someone out. Like, if I have, like, an Ondu inversion on top or something like that, I definitely want you to take the damage.
Yeah, so rating wise, Krim has A, I have B, Richard has C. That's what kind of sold me on the card, was like playing it with Eureka or something, like decks that actively care about having high mana value stuff on the top of their deck, because that can actually like pour in quite a bit of damage. So I think I would play this over Dark Confidant if I had to choose between the two. Yeah. I think I would rather play this than Dark Confidant in Commander in specific. That said, I don't really play Dark Confidant in Commander. It's a creature. It's going to get wrathed away, so it's not going to stick around very long. That's my biggest problem with it, isn't the ability. It's just, I don't know, creature card draw doesn't live that long usually. But what do you think about this, Richard? You got it at a C.
Yeah,
but it's not offensive enough. What? This sucks?
Bob would get a C. Who's playing Bob in Commander?
Krim.
And this one is you get randomly domed by your opponent's stuff. Like, you don't know if they have a surprise Ondu inversion or something in their deck, right? Like, at least with Bob, you're like, I'll make a low CMC deck to not, destroy myself. But, like, just pay one more mana and play Underworld, whatever. Phyrexian Arena or Underworld Connections or whatever, right? Like, something more permanent. Play Painful Truth. Like, play literally anything. You're in black. You're not hurting for card draw. The only exception is Eureka, right? Like, yeah, if you're gonna dome someone with this, then yes, right? It's part of that. But for card draw, it's a lot of work for very little card draw. And a very risky, like, Russian roulette with your life total, right? Like, you're not controlling your deck. Your opponent, too, can scry giant things to the top of their deck, right? They're like, brainstorm my omniscience back. How do you do, right? Like,
well, I know how I'm going to do. I'm going to take 10. So, that's also part of the fun, right? It's a little bit of the Russian roulette aspect of it. Maybe because I'm like slowly trying to see if they can add more chaos cards into creature form, but like I think it's like a fun design. Like, it is just a fun card, and it is a vanilla do nothing. You were right, it just comes down, it does nothing. But if it makes it around, some shenanigans happen. It's in humans, it's in wizards, so it's tribal is what carries it. It's like the tribes that it has attached to it. I like it.
If I ever play Dark Confidant Wizard Tribal, King Duelist is definitely making the cut.
Yo, it's also a human. It's good in humans. It's the truth there. It's the truth. I have taken a lot of damage from it.
I like that it adds a little bit of direct damage. Like, your humans deck might not have that reach. Like, you get board wiped or something, like, and you get someone low on life. This is a way that you can theoretically just like get those last few life points, even if you don't have a big board that you can attack with, or your opponent has blockers, like got ghostly prisons or something going on. So I could see a little bit of upside there. I still don't know if I would jam it in my human deck. I think I really want to be like top of the library manipulation deck to play it, but I can see where you're going with it. I can see where you're going. All right, let's keep moving on. Next up, we have maybe one of the highest ranked cards of our entire cast, which is Skullwinder. Skullwinder, it's an Eternal Witness, a 3-mana 1/3 Snake with Death Touch. When it enters a battlefield, you get to return a card from your graveyard to your hand, and you choose an opponent. They get to put a card from their graveyard into their hand. I got it as a S. Richard has it as a S. Krim has it as a B. This is a card Richard sold me on. And this is another one like Secret Rendezvous. When you first mentioned it, this card's been around for a while, but you mentioned it a couple years ago that, like, I think you should just play this over Eternal Witness. And my mind, like, exploded. And I was like, no, like, why? I want my card back from the graveyard. I don't want to be giving you a card back from the graveyard. Why in the world would I give you free value? I had the 60 card mindset. And then as I've come to play more Commander and come to realize the power of giving your opponents things, now I'm kind of in that place where I still play Eternal Witness, but I think Skullwinder is as good and probably even honestly just better than Eternal Witness. And Eternal Witness is literally one of the most played cards in the entire Commander format. It is an ultra staple. Richard, but I should let you talk about it. You're the one who came onto this card first. What do you think about Skullwinder?
So I got this card from Tom, MTG Radio. He used to play this a lot, right? And it's really good. And I think this is like the gateway drug in the Secret Rendezvous.
Yeah.
Like, this one is like you can see everything that's about to happen, right? You can see their graveyard, right? You can probably predict what they want. You can instruct them to take what they want, right? You have full control of it, right? It's also just power crept Eternal Witness for your side. Like, it's a 1/3 death touch, so it actually blocks and kills things, and it's mono green. You can still Green Sun Zenith and everything. So I think if you are wary of these giving your opponent stuff cards, like, this is the first card. I do think it's strictly better than Ewit. I never play Ewit. I play this thing, and I might play the flashback Timeless Witness or whatever. But it's a 1/3 death touch, and you get to see exactly what your opponent will do. And you can ask them because you have all the information, and there's nothing scary coming off the top. You don't know what if they draw this, what if that happens. You know exactly all the information that's there in the graveyard.
It is precisely that I like this card. See, like the Secret Rendezvous is too much unknown. I think Secret Rendezvous is like significantly like worse than this card. This should be the Skullwinder tier list. Okay, like I would.
Seth might agree with you.
Because I think Skullwinder is actually very, very solid, right? Like, it is a solid creature. It is a solid body. It's a 1/3 with death touch, as you had mentioned. That's legit. It is actually a very good blocker. And the fact that you can see it coming is entirely why I love this card. If I know what you're getting back, and I know that I could politic it, and like 100%, then yeah, this is the truth, right? I think this is a very good card.
And this is
especially Commander.
And this is another card that works out how you want it to. We were talking about earlier how it would be easy to make a deal with the Hunted Cycle. People are going to, sure, I won't attack you if you give me those creatures. This is another card I've seen in action many, many times in Commander Clash, where it's like you play this and you're like, hey Seth, you got a Wrath in your graveyard. We need a Wrath. You got a Wrath in your graveyard? And I'm like, oh yeah. And Richard's like, all right, I'll play Skullrinder and you cast it. And I'm the one spending the mana. I'm spending my turn casting the Wrath, and you still get me to do it every single time. Because why would you pass up the free value? Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm like, yes, this is great. Like, it's those Jedi mind tricks, but it really
stops
works.
you every time. By the way, yeah, that you know that.
But it works. It works.
Good.
Yeah,
that's the theory with all these. It's like 3 mana, 1/3 death touch, time walk Seth, right? Wrath the board, right?
Right.
And get a card for myself, like crazy, right? There's always ways to maneuver. And then the funny thing is Seth is happy about it.
I am.
Like,
I'm still happy.
I know what Rendezvous to find the Wrath anyway. Thank you for the free Wrath, right?
I know what you're doing now. I see it. I can see it happening, and I'm still happy about it. I know I shouldn't be, but I still am.
It's a win-win. There are win-wins in Magic, Seth. We can win together.
You've never seen someone so happy to end their turn.
But they just time walk themselves, right? You're like, I'll cast a farewell. I'm like, cool, you cast a farewell. Thank you.
It does blow my mind that Eternal Witness 27% attacks on EDH Rex, Skullwinder 2. That's nothing. Like, no one plays this card. I think, is this better than Secret Rendezvous? I don't know. Like, I'm kind of on the fence.
Yes.
Maybe it is, actually. But I do think this is the most underrated card on the list. This being a 2% attacks is a Travis. This should be Eternal Witness level staple. This should be one of the first cards you add into every green deck. Yeah, It really should be.
It's cheap. It's 25 cents. It's an uncommon. It's basically free, right?
I think it's because people are still attached to what it was, like Eternal Witness in a 1v1 format, right? And like its history as a Magic card. But like, if you look past all of that, Skullwinder is actually just better. I think it is just better.
And people get stuck on the idea that just giving your opponent stuff is always bad when it's not in Commander.
Right.
Like, a lot of times it's good. Like, most of the time it is a Commander card. And Death Touch is huge. Death Touch is super huge. Like, being able to take down some big creature late in the game with your little random Eternal Witness, that's a huge upside. But all right, let's keep moving forward. We got a relatively recent mythic for let's see. I believe this might be Richard's last card on the list. We'll see. Richard, what do you got for us?
Shadrix Silverquill. Does this even count? 3 white and a black. It's a 2/5 legendary Elder Dragon, flying double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 black-white Inkling with flying. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. I haven't seen anyone get anything from this other than the owner drawing a card and putting a +1/+1 counter on a non-existent creature of someone else.
Yeah.
Does this really count as a Secret Rendezvous card?
It does. Why do you think I love that? Okay, go through the ratings, Richard. Go through the ratings.
All right. A from me, Seth. A. Krim S.
Ooh. Krim loves it. Why do you love it so much, Krim?
I have it as a commander. I think it's there are so many things that are right about this card. We just talked a lot about like the hunted cycle, right? Giving somebody a body, increasing the board like presence super quick. This does that. Not only that, but the biggest thing is this card triggers at the beginning of combat on your turn. So you will immediately get something after casting this as long as it doesn't get countered or removed. So you can immediately draw a card for yourself, give somebody next to you on the turn cycle a 2/1, and it's not as much power as the hunted cycle like up front, but over time you get to just keep doing this. And then it's super flexible. I can give you power, I keep growing my board. We keep like the board power just keeps growing. It itself has double strike. So if I give a 1/1 counter immediately, this is now 6 damage coming in. Somebody to the left of me is getting a 2/1. And if I really wanted to knock someone out, I can give someone else's board a bunch of 1/1s. You know what I mean? Like it's a build your own hunted kind of like thing on a commander that has a very good body. And that's if you choose to have it as a commander. You can just reoccur this over and over. As a card in the 99, it kind of does what the hunted cycle does anyways. Obviously, it's not cheap costed like a hunted horror. It's not 2 mana. It is 5. But the upside of this is much holy cow, it is very, very good. If it stays you only got to let it stay around a turn or two, or even get to your combat and it's already solid because you've drawn a card. Yeah. It's cycled and you've given something out. So I am all for this as a card in the 99 and it's even better as a commander. I have it as a commander. I think it's amazing. And most Orzhov decks can abuse the abilities because you're some form of aristocrats or you like draining, maybe you're a token deck, whatever it is. I feel like this card is very Orzhov, and that's why it works in almost any Orzhov deck that wants creatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good value. I don't know if it counts does it count as a Secret Rendezvous? Is that a stretch? I mean, I feel like it kind of does, but there's ways you can, I guess, work around it by targeting the player that is going to be least beneficial. But how's that any different than targeting the mana screwed player with your Secret Rendezvous because they can't take advantage of the card? So I think it actually counts.
Or the player with no graveyard with Skull.
Right? So here's why it doesn't count, because you get basically a 2/5 flying double strike, and you get to draw a card, and your opponent gets a 2/1 white-black. Creature flying. It's not symmetrical. It's so in your favor, even if you have to give someone something. So yes, it's technically, but it's if Secret Rendezvous was I draw 5, you draw 1. Technically,
okay.
But it's so in my favor.
That's amazing.
This card is amazing, right? It's really well costed, and it's hard to screw up. It's so in your favor that it's hard to make this bad, right? You accidentally. Someone's Sylvan Offering gave you 1/1s or something, and then you put the 1/1 counters and you got killed because you put it on the wrong. I don't know how you screw this up, right? It's usually pretty easy to get this to do what you want it to do. So
it is true that it does have a reasonable body that can't even grow from its own ability. So yeah, I guess that does change it a little bit and does break the symmetry on it, where sure, you're benefiting both players, but you're the one that has the huge, you get the huge body. I mean, Shatterick is a legit threat though, especially if you put some of its counters on it, that thing can kill people pretty quick. I think it's a good card though. It's definitely a good card. And I think it's cool because if you look at our list, we got a lot of white and black cards on there. That's the color of Secret Rendezvous. That's the color of Hunted Horror, of Flumph, which we're not going to talk about. Some of the other cards that we haven't gotten to yet. So if you want to build Secret Rendezvous Tribal, you actually got the perfect commander. Shatterick is a way to go if you want to jam all these cards together and build that style of deck, which I think is cool. All right, next up, Krim. What is your last card on the list?
All right, so the last card on my list is Master of Ceremonies. It's 3 and a white. It just came out recently, I think, in the Capenna commander decks. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chose money, you and that player each create a treasure token. For each player that chose friends, you and that player each create a 1/1 green and white citizen token. And for each person that chose secrets, you and that player each draw a card. So you kind of get to go around the table, right? And you let them choose. But I feel like quite often the opponent chooses, right?
The opponent chooses on this one. Yep.
Are they not just going to give you a bunch of citizens?
No, because they would have citizens.
They would also have
card
to get a
draw,
bunch of
then
citizens.
you get the card draw, right?
Right,
Yes,
but why would I want you to draw cards and a treasure? I think it's still beneficial. Like, it's not a bad card. I just feel like quite often you're getting a citizen out of this, which is still pretty decent because then you're getting a pretty big board, but it's canceled out by their own citizens. But I think this card, personally, I gave it a B. And then we have Richard, who gave it a C, and then Seth gave it an A. Like, I don't think it's awful. I just don't know if it's anything above average. It is, I guess, okay at 4 mana. I don't know. It feels okay.
So I might be overrating it. I will say this is a card that's not on Magic Online, so I haven't got to play with it firsthand. But when I read this card, it seems like a lot of repeatable value. Like, once you get out on the battlefield, every turn, you're getting some combination of 3 card draws, tokens, or treasure 1/1 tokens or treasure tokens for nothing, just for doing nothing. Yes, your opponents are benefiting, but you're going to be getting a token or a card for each thing your opponent does. So you're benefiting way more. Like, the whole table's going to get 3 1/1s. You're going to get 3 1/1s every turn, so you are coming out ahead in that exchange over the long run. I think that it could be a pretty good card. And to Krim's question about, aren't they just going to pick citizen tokens? Like, if you played with me, I would be picking card draw. There's got to be other people who are like me that are just not going to pass up the opportunity to draw a card, or you're going to need the person who's mana screwed and is like, I don't want to do this. I know it's probably better to give you a citizen, but I just really need the treasure token, so I'm going to take the treasure token. So I think you'll get non-citizen tokens maybe a little bit more than it looks at first glance. A is maybe a little bit aggressive. B is maybe the right rating for it. Maybe I should downgrade it a little bit. But this is a card that I'm really intrigued by and think has a lot of. I think it has a lot of potential. But what do you think about this one, Richard?
I want to play this. It's not available on Moto. I put it as a C because, your opponent chooses, right? So you're hoping that your incentives align with your opponent, so you both want to draw cards, or what if you need a chump blocker, right? Maybe they're not going to give you creatures. But the biggest thing is it dies to Doomblade, right? You play this thing. Yeah. You have to wait for it to come all the way around back to you, and then you get the card draw or the whatever, right? It's not like on your opponent's upkeep, they choose and you get something incrementally. So it's a bit risky to play a 4-drop that dies to the next sweeper that hits before your turn and you untap. So I don't know. I don't think it's good, but maybe it's fine. If it works the way you think it works, you play Masters of Ceremonies, you untap during your upkeep. Yes, it's not Secret Rendezvous. What's the new? It's you draw 3, each opponent draws 1. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And that happens every turn. I'm that's decent. I play this, right? But I don't know that it'll work like that. I think when you want the cards, you're going to get some random treasures and 1/1s, or it'll die to a sweeper or something. You're going to pay 4 mana and do nothing. So I don't know. It could be good, but we need to actually play it. We need to petition Watsy to put it on Moto.
Master of Ceremonies, get it on Moto. I will say
you need to put it into a legacy deck, Seth. Come on.
Yes, I will break legacy with Master of Ceremonies. Give me a minute, and then we'll get it on Moto.
It's too expensive. I think that's the thing, right? We were talking, example, Master, the Keen Duelist, right? It was mentioned that does nothing until my turn, right? But that's 2 mana. I'm willing to invest 2 mana. This is 4 mana. Hope that I get it back to my turn. The upside is that it's not offensive enough to immediately sweep the board or something like that. I don't think.
Is that an upside? Your card's so bad, no one's
so bad, no one cares. You can have it.
That works. In a game of Commander, to not immediately assume if you only play bombs that immediately pull aggro, you're gonna definitely die, right? This is very not threatening.
Yeah, that's how Richard wins most of his games. I'm just the bird player. Don't worry about me. Yeah. And then next thing we know, we're all dead.
But the birds are good. What is this Master of Ceremonies going to do?
I will say it's a bummer you gotta wait till the upkeep. I'm actually a little bit surprised that it doesn't trigger end step, or a lot of cards these days it's beginning of combat or end step, so you get that value right away. This one is worded pretty safely, where it does have to make it all the way around the table, which that's not a guarantee. That's not a guarantee. Even if people aren't focusing on killing this, there's just so many wraths that are played that, like, there's a decent chance it ends up getting sniped by accident as people are trying to deal with the rest of the board. So
if I still want to play it, though, this would be a little too. I think this would be very, very different. If this
each
was
upkeep would be broken. Oh, that would be
right.
That would probably be broken if it was every upkeep. But if it was my end step, so you get the first value right away, like that would probably be fine. But all right, we got one more card. Our last card from the day. It's basically another secret rendezvous. That's actually another new addition to our list. In Wedding Ring, another card that's not a moto, unfortunately, but a card that I really want to play with. So Wedding Ring, a 4-mana artifact. It's white. And then when it enters a battlefield, an opponent gets a copy of it. An opponent gets a copy of it, and then whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring draws a card during their turn, you draw a card, and whenever an opponent who controls an artifact named Wedding Ring gains life during their turn, you gain that much life. So essentially, it's like a permanent secret rendezvous. I play this, I give Richard the copy of it. When Richard draws his card for the turn, I'm going to get to draw a card, or if he draws extra cards during his turn. But then when I draw a card during my turn, Richard will also get to draw a card. Is this card actually good? It's so tricky to actually evaluate without having played it. We all have it as C's, but this is actually a pretty, like, expensive. It's like a $20 card. It's kind of hyped. A lot of people have been talking about it. So we wanted to talk about it even though we got it as C's. What do you guys think about Wedding Ring? Are we missing something? Because people seem to love this card, but we got it ranked relatively low, honestly.
I feel like I'm ranking it kind of high. I don't.
Out of respect for the viewers that keep talking about Wedding Ring, gave it a C.
This is for the viewers.
Be a D.
Yeah, like this is for the viewers. I give it a C because I don't get it. I don't see why this is as expensive as it is. It must be a low print or something like that. But like if I didn't like Secret Rendezvous, which is constantly drawing my opponent's cards, or which is drawing my opponent 3 cards. This is constantly drawing them cards, right? Whenever I draw cards. I guess like it is nice to know that like I can kind of like mooch off of you, but you mooch off of me. So we kind of just have to make like it's in a weird way. It forces both players to kind of play honest magic, like the pay the one kind of magic. I'll pay the one if you pay the
Not
one.
happening.
Well, if exactly, like I know that if I add this to Seth, he's gonna draw 50 cards. So like with or without like worrying about anything. So am I missing something? Because this just seems like 4 mana for something that I don't know. You kind of just chain yourself to somebody at the table.
I feel like the idea is that you play this in like a white aggro deck or something, and you're supposed to play this and give it to the card draw player, the person who's storming off with their Niv or like whatever, going to town with their Panharmonicons and Muldrifters. And in theory, you should benefit way more because they're going to be drawing a ton of extra cards and you're not going to be drawing a ton of extra cards. Whether or not that's enough to make it good at 4 mana, I'm not really sure that it is, but I think that's a one scenario where I could actually see it being pretty good. Like in that scenario where my deck doesn't draw cards and you have someone else at the table that does draw a lot of cards, you're going to benefit way more over the course of time. I don't know, but at the same time, like Secret Rendezvous is 3 mana and you just get your 3 cards right away. There's no risk, there's no waiting, there's no anything. It seems worse than Secret Rendezvous to me, but what do you think, Richard? You're the expert here.
I've never played this. I don't know. But every time we talk about Secret Rendezvous, people in the comments, I was like, oh, what about Wedding Ring? It's so good. And it's a $20 card or whatever, right? It's like $17.
I didn't know it was $20.
I do not understand. Box. Like I've seen people say you kill your opponent's copy. So it's like non-symmetrical, right? Or
sure.
You like give multiple people Wedding Rings. So then you're drawing off everyone. It's a lot of work for card draw, right? Like, if not, they're not doing anything special, it's like a 4 mana Phyrexian Arena, maybe, right? So I don't know. It's like a lot of work, and
you go through all of
that. It can backfire like really badly, right? And your opponents can draw instant speed. Like you don't necessarily like. You could have the Storm player just like draw instant speed and like totally negate any benefit to you. I don't understand. You can't even secret rendezvous them because it's like during their turn. So like I don't even know. You can temple attack them, I guess, but this is a lot of work for card draw. I don't think we need this, but I don't know. People really like this card. I just someone needs to tell me what's the deal with this.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, explain to us why Wedding Ring is good in the comments, because we've been trying to figure it out. I will say, I feel like, and it sounds weird to say this, but White's gotten so much good card advantage lately that I don't know if you need this card. Like, we no longer in the days where it's like, I gotta play Mind's Eye in every single mono white deck because I just don't have any other options. Like, we have Secret Rendezvous, we have Attack Your Temple, whatever that card is. We have a bunch of other options, so this to me is maybe a card that like 5 years ago, before Wizards started supporting white, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to play this in every white deck just because I don't have an option. Like, I got to draw a card somehow and this will get the job done. But now I think we have enough other options that maybe you just don't need Wedding Ring. I can't see the janky idea of like building around it and getting a bunch of copies going. That sounds fun, but that's a little different than a Secret Rendezvous. Like, just playing this as a value card draw spell or whatever. If you want to go all in on building around it, that sounds kind of neat, but I don't know. Then you're not talking about just a random card draw slot. You're talking about, your hidden commander or something, which is a little bit different. But I don't know. Maybe we're missing something. But
it's so expensive. We have to be missing something. Like, people are happily playing this and spending like so much money for it, right?
I mean, I will say it was a set booster exclusive, I think. So that probably plays into it. But there's a lot of other set booster exclusives that are not $20. So that's part of why it's more expensive. But yeah,
because I've read that, just kill it. But like, I just went and played like 7 cards to kill it, and then now you can just easily, okay, well, now that you've expended all these resources, I'll just blow up your Wedding Ring.
Oh my goodness, you want to hear something mind-blowing? It's played in 2% of decks according to EDH Rec, which means it is, I think, is popular as Skullwinder somehow. Wedding Ring versus Skullwinder. Wedding Ring is it's just as played. It's got to be wrong.
I think you know what it is? I think it's got to be meme value. It's got to be the meme value. That's the...
People are like proposing to their, whatever, significant others, and they got to get the wedding ring, and that's driving up the price. Okay, I can see that.
Like this is like more. I believe this is for off the battlefield effect, right? Like I'm talking like IRL. This is a cute meme. I'm gonna give this to my partner, right? Miss you, babe, love you. I believe that.
Yo, my partner gave me this, and it's trash. Rendezvous movie. Do you not love me? Why are you giving me a wedding ring?
Do you not love me?
Give me some Hunted Horror tokens. Anything.
and that's how they got divorced. They gave him a wedding ring.
I'm so insulted by this. I can't believe you gave this to me.
You do not love me anymore.
And well, I think on that note, that's probably the perfect place to wind up our podcast. You get to hear about Magic cards and about love. You get to learn a little bit of everything on the Commander Clash podcast. So that brings us to the end of our tier list for Secret Rendezvous. Cards that give you and an opponent something. Like usual, we'll copy and paste the whole list into the article. So check that out if you want to see all our rankings. There's a couple other cards we didn't get to, although honestly, we covered almost all of them. There's not that many Secret Rendezvous in Magic. There's a bunch of group hug cards that benefit everyone, but not that many cards that just are you and one opponent. So check out our full rankings. Of course, let us know what you think about these cards. About Wedding Ring, what are we missing there? And all the other cards. Are these cards underrated? Where are you at with the Hunted Cycle? Should we be playing them more? Do you have a favorite card that we missed? Let us know about that as well. And of course, if you need a fancy new playmat and want to support the podcast and the stream and the channel and the site, head over to mtggoldfishmerch.com before the end of July. Pick up your playmat. It looks spectacular. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for hanging out, Richard and Krim. It's super fun. Tomer will be back next cast, presumably with functioning internet. So look forward to that as well. On that note, everyone, have a good one. And this is the crew signing out.